Hello and welcome. You're with us here at Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Sensex and Nifty rise to 5-month highs even as the Bank Nifty hits a new record. Gains in shares of real estate, financial services and FMCG companies. Sensex up 318 points, Nifty up 84. Bombay Stock Exchange takes the battle to volumes to NSE. Relaunches Sensex and BankX derivatives to challenge NSE's monopoly. Changes the date of weekly expiry and lot sizes to help trade. Inflation moderates in India ahead of the monsoon. Wholesale price index falls to a near 3-year low. Clocks in at minus 0.92% in April. The big question is, how will RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das shape his monetary policy? Supreme Court adjourns its order on Sebi plea, seeking more time for the Adani probe. Capital markets regulator tells the court the Adani group was not under investigation before the Hindenburg report. Says premature conclusion into the probe will not serve interest of justice. Now track your stolen or lost mobile phone. Government site with an all-new tracking system to go live this week. System will also prevent cloning of mobile phones. Equity markets extended their climb for a second straight session today, led by gains across the board in banks, financials, automobile, realty and consumer stocks. Investor sentiment got a boost due to strong fourth quarter earnings and easing consumer inflation data. The 30-share BSE Sensex pack jumped 318 points, while the broader NSE Nifty index moved 84 points to settle at 18,399. Both are at a 5-month high. The top index gainers today: Hero MotoCorp, Tata Motors, ITC, Tech Mahindra and Hindalco. Leading the losers pack were Adani Enterprises, Cipla, BPCL, Grasim and Divi's Labs. India Today Group's global business editor Udayan Mukherjee spoke with market guru and CEO of Avendus Capital, Andrew Holland, about the current optimism on Dalal Street. Here's an excerpt.
What's the general mood on emerging markets you sense, Andrew? Because, there's been a very good comeback with FII flows into India. I hear that it's reflected in other regions as well. Do you think this was just an unwinding of the very, very tactically underweight position earlier, or is it something more than that?
So we spoke about this last time in terms of, the kind of thinking towards emerging markets. So it all boiled around when the Fed would go on hold. And the critical factors for us was two, actually. One is unintended consequences of higher interest rates, which we've seen through the banking system in the US in regional banks. And two would be, heading towards recession, which even the Federal Reserve Chairman is now saying that that's the likelihood. So all of that means that the Fed has now gone on hold in our view, and will reduce interest rates by the back end of the year. Now, for Asia, in particular in emerging markets, obviously, if you take into account that slowing down of the economy very sharply, it would probably mean that oil and commodity prices will fall, which gives the Asian emerging markets, in particular India, the opportunity to kind of reduce rates even before the Fed does. So I would expect the RBI should, I'm not saying it will, but they have the ability to reduce interest rates by 25 basis points in October of this year. So when investors look through this and say, okay, we know we're going to recession, but we'll look through the recovery because interest rates will fall, emerging markets is still where you're getting growth, so we want to go there. And initially we'll look at those exporting countries like China, Korea, Taiwan as the initial phase of putting money into the markets. And India comes into the second half of the year, i.e. from October onwards, as that acceleration of our GDP growth and earnings start to happen as well. So I think that's why we're seeing flows. It's coming into emerging markets. We're getting some share, but it's not to the full extent that I would expect, which will happen in the second half of 2023-24.
The last few discussions we've had, Andrew, we've spoken justifiably about the global risks, because these risks now seem to be global in nature more than India specific. But as we get to the end of the year, with the period that you're talking about, October, November, We get into election season in India as well. I mean, there was an election result in Karnataka this week, as you know, but do you think elections are a risk for the market or some kind of a trigger which the market will respond to as we wade into 2024, or do you think global factors will continue to dominate the discourse?
So I think before we get to May of next year, and I think there is a couple of risks, both for India, internally and kind of externally. And I think the external risk is, with interest rates having been risen by another 25 basis points recently, and the fact that there's a lot of there's a credit crunch going on within the banking system in the US, that's like adding another 50 basis points to your interest rates. Effectively. Now, if this spreads from the banking sector to the commercial real estate sector, mortgage market, that's a very big problem for global markets. It hasn't happened yet, but it's an unintended consequence of what could happen. And I don't know if you remember 4 or 5 months ago, I can't remember which fund it was. There's a couple of property funds who had to stop redemptions because of obviously people trying to redeem. So that's maybe was a kind of a trail of what might happen if it starts to go to the commercial real estate. So that's one risk. El Nino obviously is a risk for India because that would obviously push up inflation significantly, and that might just put the RBI on a pause for longer than I would hope for. So those are the two risks. So before we get to the elections, I think those are the two things to watch out for. With the elections, I think it's a little bit early to call it now, but obviously, with the Karnataka election results, I think everyone's saying, and maybe rightly so, that state elections are different than national elections, so nothing to worry about so far.
So what do you expect the market to do now, Andrew? Because it's been a very smart comeback from the Nifty levels of sub 17,000 all the way to 18,500. From here on, though, do you see the market making significant progress, or do you think the easy money has been made for 2023?
I think for this calendar year, yes, probably we're going to keep in a range, and it's going to be volatile because of some of the risks we talked about. I also think that you've actually made more money below the Nifty in terms of the themes that you might have played, and I think that will continue. But let me put it this way, I think the Nifty could be hitting 20,000 by March of next year, which is about another 10% from here. But I think themes underneath the Nifty will actually do a lot better. So I think that's the way I would think. I'm not kind of saying that the index is going to shoot up, but if you're thinking about interest rates coming down in October in the RBI, then the banking sector would obviously be a theme that you continue to play.
Sebi has filed a fresh affidavit before the Supreme Court claiming that Adani Group companies were not under investigation before the Hindenburg report. The rejoinder was filed after the petitioners in the Adani Hindenburg report case opposed Sebi's plea to extend time for the probe into the allegations raised by the Hindenburg report. The agency has submitted that the earlier investigation pertains to the issuance of GDRs by 51 Indian listed companies, among which no Adani Group company was found. However, Sebi has submitted that it's been looking into the issue of minimum public shareholding norms through international channels since 2020. The capital markets regulator also claimed that the investigation arising out of the 12 transactions mentioned in the Hindenburg report is highly complex, adding that any incorrect or premature conclusion of the case arrived at without full facts or material or record would no longer serve the ends of justice and hence would be legally untenable. The rejoinder was filed even as the Apex Court adjourned its hearing on the Adani Hindenburg issue until tomorrow. Let's go across to Anisha Mathur tracking this today. Anisha, this is the second time the Supreme Court has adjourned its order in as many days. What happened in the court today that this decision was taken?
Well, today the Supreme Court simply ran out of time to hear the matter. There were more than 60 matters in the list for the Chief Justice's bench to hear, as well as a special bench case and the retirement function for Justice M.R. Shah. And that is why none of the matters after item 47 were really heard by the court today. The likelihood, however, is that the matter will be heard tomorrow. What is also important to note is that the court in the last hearing had clearly said that they are not inclined to give the 6-month extension that the SEBI has asked for, but they could very well give a 3-month extension. We'll have to now wait and see when exactly this matter will be heard by the court, or if any clear orders are going to be passed.
Sebi flip-flopped on its statement given on Friday. How has that affected the case?
The SEBI, in its reply that has been filed today, has very clearly said that whatever investigation was carried out in 2016 was with regard to global depository receipts, GDRs, which went into 51 Indian companies, but the SEBI has claimed that none of those companies were part of the Adani group, which in fact, according to the petitioners, is incorrect, because the petitioners, remember, had pointed out that in 2021, the Minister of State for Finance, Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary, had in fact given a written reply to the Parliament after this Hindenburg report controversy had broken out, that there is an investigation by the SEBI against Adani since 2016. So why exactly has the SEBI's fresh affidavit contradicted what the minister has said? We'll have to see what happens in court about that, because the SEBI has said that we've given a report on our investigation to the expert committee. At the same time, they've also said that in 2020, in October, they had approached the International Organization of Securities Commissions, which is an international body for cooperation between various countries when it comes to securities regulatory authorities, and in 2020 they had sent in some questions. They're still waiting for those responses. They're still looking into all of those issues with regard to the minimum public shareholding norms across the world. Now, with the SEBI now taking this stance, we'll have to see how the court is going to interpret this, because the petitioners very clearly had raised the allegation that there are a number of companies which are based in Mauritius, that are registered in Mauritius, which own more than 95%, which have a huge stake in the Adani Group enterprises, and that is exactly where the petitioners had asked for an investigation.
Thanks, Anisha. The Bombay Stock Exchange is trying to boost its F&O trade, which currently lags far behind its rival, the NSE. The exchange today relaunched the Sensex and Bankex derivative contracts with reduced lot sizes and a new expiry cycle of Friday instead of Thursday. The lot size of futures and options has been reduced to 10 from 15 for the Sensex and to 15 from 20 in case of Bankex. Business Today TV Managing Editor Siddharth Zarabi earlier discussed the move with BSE MD and CEO Sundaraman Ramamurthy. Here's an excerpt.
About the changes that you have done to the Sensex and the Bankex F&O segment from today. Explain the key decisions that have been taken.
In the meeting, today we have relaunched Sensex and Bankex derivative contract. Sensex is, what I mean by Sensex here is the Sensex 30, very well known to the marketplace as one of the India's oldest indices as well, which is considered the barometer of Indian economy. The other one is the Bankex, which represents the banking sector. Sensex has a correlation of around 99.96% with Nifty, which is one of the most largely traded contracts across the globe. And Bankex has similar correlation with Bank Nifty, which is another important contract from India. We went to the marketplace to discuss with members as to what they would like to see in BSE's equity derivative segment. As you know, though equity derivatives are around 20 plus years old in India, BSE's volumes have not been greatly significant till now. We wanted to rejuvenate and this segment and make BSE vibrant. So we went to the marketplace to find from them what they would like to see in these contracts. The advice given to us by the market participants is have two contracts. One is Sensex and second is Bankex. Don't have it on Thursday. Thursday we are very busy with other expiries. So please put it on Friday, because Thursdays our capitals will get released from our trading in the other exchange on the more prominent equity derivative contract. So the capital that is released could be better utilized by us with you on Friday. So have it on Friday. Lower the contract size to whatever you can to meet the minimum regulatory standards, so that the margins are less and it could be all inclusive. And go ahead and talk to the members and bring in as many participants as you can so that it becomes vibrant. This was the feedback given to us. So we went ahead and therefore reshaped this product and we are launching. We have met a lot of members across the country and we have requested them to consider this product as one of the products as we feel to bring down the concentration risk and also to introduce a product interplay. This will be a good mechanism and can be complementary and symbiotic with the existing products in the market.
Given the fact that we are in some ways still a fixed deposit nation, and I'm not asking you for the BSE view on this, but as a industry stalwart, what do you see happening in terms of consumer behavior in the medium term with regard to investing in equity versus the kind of products that are currently finding favor through bank deposits?
See, bank deposits have their own idiosyncrasies which are very helpful to people because it addresses many requirements of them. So it will be incorrect to think that the importance of the bank deposits, these fixed deposits or small savings bank will be diminished. It is not. It is incorrect to think so. In terms of equity investment, it needs to be very carefully looked into. What is the equity culture which will be desirable for a nation of our size has to be looked into. An equity portfolio is a better portfolio than a single stock holding. So when we are talking about equity portfolio, because it addresses all the diversifiable risks of a portfolio, you require a minimum size of the portfolio. So it depends, therefore, what is the type of investor we are talking. A country of our size, which has diverse set of participants in the market, some of them may be having good amount of money to have a well-diversified portfolio. For them, the requirement would be as to how the exchange is supporting creation the type of a portfolio at a very lower impact cost, at a good liquidity profile, with safety to the investors. That is one type. For the small investor, who is Aam Janta as we call, who has a very small amount of money with him at his disposal, if he wants to participate in the upside of India's economy, mutual fund appears to be the best route for him because it's already a well-diversified portfolio. So how do we help small retail investors to create a culture of capital market investment in him, and for whatever surplus money which is not immediately required by him, which he wants to put away into investment, how does he go into mutual funds? For day-to-day requirements, he needs to have some bank deposit. For an amount which he may be requiring 3 or 4 months, he may have a fixed deposit requirement. They all are fine. Over and above that, what he feels as surplus which can be kept away for 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, or whatever it is, we need to bring in a culture of capital market investment, probably through a mutual fund route, that is safer for him because it addresses the diversified risk issue. These would be my thought process in this regard.
What's your sense about the markets for this year, and do you see volumes in the cash markets doing much better?
On a time-bound fashion, what the market or volumes would be, we will be incapable of predicting it. Forward-looking capabilities we wouldn't have. But what we will be able to give is a directional view as to where the economy is heading. Clearly, we know that this country is growing. If the country is growing, the number of private equity investors, number of unicorns, number of new corporate entities coming into existence, the unleashing of entrepreneurial capabilities of the youth that we have, the innovative thought process of this country, they all are going to see light of the day, and they will all land up in the capital markets. So clearly, I feel the role of exchanges is going to become deeper and deeper into multiple areas and multiple services we are going to be providing to the marketplace. One day the volume will go down, one day the volume will go up. Day-to-day volumes are a function of multiple functionalities, which to that extent of that day looks very uncontrollable. What is controllable is overall the size of the market. What is to be addressed is the overall size of the market. How do we help in the market penetration happening in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities? So there I find a lot of positivity in this country.
Now, have you lost your mobile phone? Thanks to a government portal, you'll soon be able to track or even block your missing phone. The new tracking or anti-theft system will be launched this week. The Center for Department of Telematics, CDOT, has been running the pilot project in several telecom circles, and the system is now ready for pan-India deployment.
It's one of the worst nightmares of a mobile phone owner, misplacing or having your handset stolen. Not just because it cost you tens of thousands of rupees, but because it was a virtual repository of passwords, of photographs and videos, of crucial documents, financial information and apps, and of course your contacts and chats with them.
Well, there is some good news for you. A portal which would track and block these lost handsets is going live this week. The Central Equipment Identity Register, or the CEIR, has been working as a pilot program in several states like Delhi, Maharashtra, Karnataka and some northeastern states, where it has successfully stopped the cloning of lost or stolen phones. What it basically does is that it renders the phone useless in the hands of the unauthorized user.
For CEIR to work, the users will first have to file an FIR at the nearest police station. Then fill out an online form available on the website or application. Some of the mandatory fields in the form include mobile number, device model, IMEI 1 and 2 numbers, and location information about where the phone was stolen. The CEIR website also asks for a scanned copy of the FIR. After the successful submission of the blocking request, the user's phone is usually blocked within 24 hours. After the phone has been blocked, it cannot be used on any network across India. The government says that IMEI blocking does not prevent the police from tracking the lost stolen phone. Moreover, users can also check the complaint status. The system builds on an earlier law which makes it mandatory for every mobile phone sold to have an IMEI number. This 15-digit code is unique to every handset. Mobile networks like Airtel, Jio and Vodafone have access to the list of approved IMEI numbers and can check the entry of any unauthorized mobile phones on their network. The system also stops cloning of mobile phones, which involves changing the IMEI number of stolen mobile phones. The CEIR will be able to block any cloned mobile phone on the network with the help of various databases. Importantly, the website also addresses national security issues by preventing use of cloned mobile phones, a common tactic used by terrorists and for other money laundering and anti-national activities.
Well, Apple cell phones already had this feature where cell phones could be tracked. This was also available with Android cell phones, but there wasn't a central universal registry. Although it was available in several other countries, it has taken its own sweet time to be available in India. This was Akanksha Chaturvedi for Business Today TV.
And that's how we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.